All right, welcome back to Chat Room. I'm Michael here with my co-host John, and we are talking about sports betting, the impact thereof, and this is something that I told John I know he knows way more about, and because I am one of the few, I guess we're still in the majority. According to Pew Research, only 19% of U.S. adults have bet money on sports in the past year, but still, considering it's only been legal, really in the past 5 or 6 years, that's a lot. It's already generated $1 billion of revenue in 2020, and that's supposed to grow about 6 times that by next year. So, yeah, it's a big industry. And John, what are your thoughts on kind of sports betting in general, and how have you kind of delved into that?
I personally I love sports betting, and it's kind of one of those hobbies that I've like became in love with like over the past year. But it kind of sounds like I'm a betting addict because I know like that's a huge problem, like people gambling money, and it essentially is gambling because you don't know whether an interception is going to interfere your $50 on the line, and so it's very dangerous, and I don't recommend it to anyone that doesn't have like any self control as far as like betting what they willingly are ready to lose and stuff like that. So
Sure.
I personally don't bet large sums of money. I just love coming home, watching sports, and I usually do 50 cents, and I'll make about two or three of these a day. And I did the math, and it comes up to like less than $500 in the total year. So
Yeah.
I do like 50-cent bets where I'll pick like 10 college football games, a couple MLB games, a couple tennis matches, a couple, college basketball games, which will be like a total of 15 games. And I'll just pick who I think is going to win. So that 50 cents can make anywhere from the lowest one I've had, like on a 20 game 50-cent bet, is like maybe like $10. And the highest one I've had possible to win is like $1.1 million off 50 cents.
Oh man.
And to me, it's more realistic than the lottery. Because I mean, it's like if I can pick 20 games that go right, you could win that kind of money.
Yeah.
And I've actually hit some, not obviously ones that have been millions, but I've hit some like in the thousands. I've hit some that have been like $500 off like a dollar. I've only done
Yeah.
it like maybe 5 times, but I just enjoy that. I'm not really hurting my situation financially by doing it. It's just for fun. So
Yeah. What are kind of, because again, I've never placed one at all.
mhm.
What's like a typical? Are you betting just on the result of the game or very specific plays?
So no, I don't bet on specific plays. You can do that. And there's a lot of successful people that, bet on certain points that the player might score, the amount of yards that a quarterback might pass for, who scores the first point of the game. I even think you can do like if a player like makes like a certain amount of tackles. But to me, you have to really, really, really know the teams to be successful in that area. So I usually pick
Sure.
like like the short we did today, like over 232 points. That basically means that for the Kings and the Maverick, or the Kings and the Memphis Grizzlies, when they play tonight, you're betting that those teams together are going to score more than 232 points. An average typical, like NBA team, it's usually like anywhere from like 110 to like, maybe 140, 50, maybe. I don't know. Probably not 50, but
Yeah.
um, so you can see how that's tricky because a bad night they score 110, and then the other team barely beats them and they score 112. You lost that bet. But if everybody's
Sure.
playing well, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, okay, 230 is starting to look more realistic. So
Yeah.
I like betting on stuff like that, and or vice versa, like which team is actually going to win. So I'll pick like, okay, the Kings are going to win. This team's going to win, that team's going to win, and then I'll build my parlay up. Which parlay is basically like you're picking like one thing from each game,
Yeah.
and it could be anything, so I usually like to do those for fun.
Okay. So I had an additional question, which is, I know we talked to Cousins Collectibles,
Yeah.
check that interview out.
Yeah.
And we asked whether their hobby of collecting cards kind of changed their experience watching the game, because you're kind of rooting for different people that, whose rookie card or, cards you may have. Do you feel similarly that kind of sports betting has changed how you engage with the sports that you love, or maybe even sports that you were never into before?
No, not really, because I'm pretty much a Tennessee fan. So whether they lose or whether they win, even if they happen to be in my parlay, I'm losing 50 cents. So, I enjoy watching the games, whether I make a bet or not. I don't stay true to my word every single night. I usually have some parlays going at least 3 or 4 days out of the week, out of 7 days. Sometimes I hit all 7, but no, I don't feel any different. I'm sure some people do, just because, they'll put I think on my app, you can put up to maybe 50 grand on one bet.
Yeah.
And, so the way the payouts are, if I was to put 50 grand on the Grizzlies tonight, I would make roughly, well, let's see. I could tell you live. Okay. So the Grizzlies are favored to win -115. So if I put 50, okay, 1 second. Okay, if I put $57,000 or $50,000 on the Memphis Grizzlies tonight, I would win 93 grand.
Potentially.
Potentially.
Yeah.
But that's, a couple starter players don't get broken ankles, and that's to say, maybe one of the players had a bad day with one of their kids and they can't focus tonight, NBA, they play over 50 games a season. They're going to lose some even when they're expected to win. It's going to happen. It always has happened. And I don't have $50,000 just to throw on that, but you can see how that could get dangerous, because anything happens in sports. There's no prediction.
And sorry to go back to it, but you're saying, for you, it's the stakes. The fact that you're, betting with such low stakes is why it's not really changing your engagement with the sport. But you mentioned tennis, as far as I'm aware. We haven't talked a lot about. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, we haven't talked a lot about tennis in the last couple of years that I've known you, John.
Yeah.
So have you started again? Even with that, do you watch tennis, or do you just kind of do some research before?
No. So tennis is usually my fill-in spot.
Okay.
Like I said, the app tells you if they're favored to win. So negative, if you bet $1 on a team that's -100 favored, I don't take me word for word on this math, but I'm trying to kind of give you an example. You put $1 on a -100 favored team, you might win $3.
Yeah.
If they're -200, you might win $2.50. If they're -300, you might win $2. If you're -400 to win, and the higher the negative number is, the more likely that team is going to win.
Okay.
So if me and you were to go shoot basketballs, and I know you don't shoot a lot of basketball.
Yeah.
I would be -1,000 to most likely, but you never know. You know what I mean? That's what sports betting is. You could go out there and be like, how did I do that? And switch it on the first one.
Yeah.
I was favored just because, I've talked more about basketball and we know each other. I know I've played more basketball, but I'm favored in that case to win.
Yeah.
But the wind, maybe my thumb's numb, maybe it's a little bit cold. You never know what the reason is, but I just couldn't shoot and you made it, so.
Yeah. Well, and that makes sense. I was just thinking, my experience, the closest I've got to this is fantasy sports.
Yeah.
And I do feel it's been a long time since I've been a big sports fan.
Yeah.
It would have been like age 10 or so. Otherwise, it just kind of like the Olympics every few years.
Yeah.
But I feel like a couple times in college, I got a little more invested
Yeah.
because I had fantasy teams, fantasy leagues, and
Yeah.
I was kind of like, oh. But similar to what you're saying, it makes it sound like there's kind of this information the app provides. Now,
Hmm.
one thing I did want to kind of read, this is from the New York Times, is they were talking about how, ever since the decision in 2018 to let states legalize betting, basically, the gambling companies have really been going after traditional casino customers, players of
Hmm.
online games, but of course, fantasy sports aficionados.
Yeah.
So it seems like, that familiarity then would kind of make you potentially all ready to delve into sports gambling.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I've actually also heard that that the that the casinos, that they're losing like part of their business just from people being in the casinos because with technology, you know, allowing someone like me from Tennessee to just be like, all right, $20 on the Memphis game, and then you walk to work, tell all your buddies tomorrow, and be like, I won $50 off $20. You used to have to go all the way down to casino, fill out a little slip, all these things.
Oh,
I've,
yeah.
I've never actually done it because I don't even think until it was electronically legal that we could even do it in Tennessee. I might be wrong about that. If someone
Yeah.
fact
No,
checks
we,
me.
we tend to have stricter rules. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you'd have to find a riverboat. I mean, even with the lottery, I
Yeah.
remember having to drive to Georgia if you wanted a lottery, which
Yeah.
isn't far from us. But
Yeah. And I mean, yeah. So, I mean, because people buy alcohol beverages when they're at a casino, they're,
yeah,
buying food, there's bars, I'm not sure what other things they're making money off ATMs. Obviously, that's a business if people don't know. Just all those things, and now people are like, why would I go to the casino when I could go to a way better bar and bet from my phone, still hang out with the boys, still drink beer, you know what I mean? Still get some
yeah.
nachos, still order the wings, but why do I have to go to the casino where all the flashy lights are giving me a headache and all the unnecessary noise and
Yeah, well, and that way again, if you're in a sports bar, you're watching the game, but you're also not tempted by all the other. Yeah, I mean,
machines?
yeah,
Spend me for $1, chance
yeah.
to win 1 million. But
Well, I kind of one last thing I wanted to ask is so you know we've talked before about college sports, especially university sports.
mhm,
We talked about athletes getting to get paid, so there's a lot transitioning there.
mhm,
But additionally, universities have started to partner with a lot of these online sports betting companies, and it's not like a ton. The New York Times reported that so far it's been 8 universities, but you also have athletic departments, booster clubs that are signing agreements with like casinos, kind of the brick and mortar casinos,
yeah,
to get in on this. And they say part of it's to recoup some of the money they lost during the pandemic,
mhm.
not having a lot of sports and whatnot. But do you see any like downside or maybe even any conflict with that,
Um,
or just all upside?
I mean, yeah, I mean, not really. I don't think there's any problem when universities linking up with, a money making machine pretty much. Because essentially, you go to work, use your money to bet. If you lose the bet, that's how the betting platforms make money. So that's just pretty much a business model. The only way it could really conflict is if that money is being bet with those platforms based on how the college performs
Yeah,
in the situation. And I don't think that that's going to be a big issue, but that's the only way I could see it being an issue. You know what I mean? You make a bet and they use that money to persuade colleges so they make more money. You know what I mean? So
yeah, yeah. And I'm sure I didn't read enough on this, but I'm sure too, because there's always the worry, like the Pete Rose thing, whether you're, betting in sports, that's been a big no-no if you're like on the team, even if you're not betting against.
Oh,
So I'm
you mean like
sure.
people on the team?
No, 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 no. I'm just saying, like, coming to my mind,
Yeah,
that's the most obvious downside would be where you were kind of going. I felt like was if we took that next leap, it would be
yeah,
going to worrying about would that influence the game itself.
yeah.
But otherwise, I think I agree with you that, and it's still been pretty new, so we'll see if there's more downsides. But
Mhm.
right now, if you think about all the deals they do with EA games and
Yeah,
all that stuff, I mean, they've basically been kind of profitizing sports on a broader level, especially these really big collegiate programs. But
yeah.
obviously NFL and all that, find ways to make additional money.
Mhm.
So I feel like if somebody did call this out as like especially overreach, it feels like the line, like it's all about where you choose the line because we've
Yeah,
already kind of done that.
yeah. And another thing I wanted to say where I was kind of going is, I think if that was a problem, it's been going on way before, like the platforms on our phone, the sports bet,
Yeah.
who's to say you can't just hand somebody some money to drop a pass? You know what I mean? So,
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
just,
Gambling is not new.
yeah. So, it is what it is. But I think it's a good space. I just pray that everyone is kind of approaching it in a fun way, like me. Like to me, I look at it as the lottery, but there's not a 1 in a million chance that you can actually win. It's not a scratch off. Like this is like 50-50. You know what I mean? There's no other way to put it. It either happens or it doesn't. You know what I mean? So it's not like you're picking out of six numbers and so a million
Yeah.
other people and they draw one number or two. But
Yeah.
just don't bet your savings account. Don't bet your retirement. I promise you, it's not going to turn out that great.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
so, but
Yeah.
I think it's a good space. I think it's a good space. As long as you're an adult about it, it'll be fine.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, I came to this knowing I only knew basically what I had just been reading because it seems like it's in the news more and more. Obviously, see the commercials.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your insight, and yeah, gamble responsibly if you choose to do it at all. Uh, we're curious what it's been like for you. If you have any thoughts on this and its impact on sports, or whether that's negative, any of that,
Hmm.
subscribe, of course, like the video, and comment below. We always want to hear from you.